Okay, so let's get right into this incredible story. Picture this. It's the late 1970s. We're deep in the Cold War. And there's this guy living right next to one of America's most sensitive nuclear weapons bases. And he starts seeing things, strange lights, weird objects in the sky. He's not just seeing them, he's filming them. And he is convinced he's stumbled onto a major threat to national security. And that one belief, that absolute conviction you see right there, well, it didn't just kick off some small local investigation. No. This would trigger a formal, top-secret government disinformation campaign and, in the process, become one of the most bizarre and fascinating chapters in the history of U.S. counterintelligence. So, to really get this story, you first have to understand the man right at the heart of it all, Paul Bennewitz. Who was this guy, and what in the world was he seeing from his home that overlooked Kirtland Air Force Base?
Well, to understand Paul Bennewitz, you really have to understand that he was two people in one. On one hand, you have the Patriot, a Coast Guard vet, a defense contractor, a guy who held a government security clearance. He was a trusted insider. But then you have the enthusiast, a passionate UFO investigator, a member of MUFON, and a true believer that we are not alone.
From his own patio, which, by the way, had a perfect view of the base, Bennewitz started documenting some seriously alarming stuff. He was taking pictures of what he called little flying saucers just swarming around larger aircraft. He was seeing these strange lights directly over the Manzano nuclear weapons storage area, which was one of the biggest in the free world, and he was even picking up weird electronic signals. As a patriot, what's he going to do? He felt he had to report a potential threat. So, as you can imagine, Bennewitz's reports eventually work their way up the chain. They land on the desk of the base's chief of security, who is concerned enough to call in Air Force counterintelligence. He sends in an officer named Richard Doty to figure out what's really going on. And so Officer Doty makes an appointment, drives over to Bennewitz's house. He's thinking he's just there to investigate a possible security threat to the base. He's about to walk into a situation that is way more complicated than he ever could have imagined. Because when Doty arrives, this is what he finds. I mean, this was not some amateur with a pair of binoculars. Bennewitz had a professional-grade surveillance operation pointed right at the base. We're talking advanced cameras, radiation detectors, frequency collectors. This was a man seriously and, more importantly, capably gathering intelligence on a highly sensitive military site. For a counterintelligence officer like Doty, you can just imagine the alarm bells going off. His mind immediately jumps to the most serious possibility. Is this whole Patriot thing just a cover? Could Paul Bennewitz actually be a spy, collecting information for a foreign government? So Doty, along with a scientist colleague, they document absolutely everything. They write up this super detailed report, and they send it up the chain to headquarters. And the response that comes back? It was fast, it was stamped top secret, and it revealed the incredible truth behind what Bennewitz was really seeing. Now, Doty probably had a hunch from the start, but the confirmation from headquarters made the whole situation critical. See, Paul Bennewitz had not discovered aliens. Oh no, he had accidentally stumbled upon something else entirely, one of the U.S. Air Force's most closely guarded secrets. So here's what was really going on. Back in the early 80s, the Air Force was secretly testing a brand new generation of unmanned aerial vehicles, what we now call drones. This was cutting-edge stuff back then, way before you could control them with satellites. The only way to operate them was to launch them from this big EC-135 mothership, which then had to fly nearby to maintain the control link. Now just imagine what that looks like from the ground. You see a massive aircraft, and it looks like it's being swarmed by these smaller, zippy, flying saucers. Bennewitz was documenting a top-secret military weapons test. Okay, so now the Air Force has a massive problem, right? You have a private citizen with some pretty sophisticated gear who is photographing a program they desperately need to keep secret from adversaries like the Soviet Union. They can't just go over and tell him to stop, and they sure as heck can't tell him the truth. So, they needed a different kind of solution. The order came straight down from headquarters. They had to neutralize the security threat that Bennewitz posed, and the method they chose was a formal disinformation project. So let's just break down how this plan worked. Step 1, identify the risk. Check. Step 2, get the orders from HQ. Check. Step 3, create the disinformation project. Check. But step 4, the goal was just stunning. Instead of telling Bennewitz he was wrong, the plan was to convince him that he was right. They were going to lean into his belief in aliens to lead him away from the very real terrestrial secret of the drone program. And the job of actually executing this bizarre plan? Well, that fell to Officer Richard Doty. He had to sit down with Paul Bennewitz and, as an official representative of the United States Air Force, validate his belief that there was an alien presence at Kirtland.
So, during one of their many meetings, Doty sets the stage. He doesn't dismiss what Bennewitz is saying. Instead, he just asks this simple, open-ended question, letting Bennewitz state his own conclusion first. And Bennewitz doesn't even hesitate. I mean, after months of investigating and gathering all this evidence, his mind is made up. To him, there is only one possible explanation. Doty presses him just one more time. He needs to be absolutely certain of Bennewitz's conviction before he plays his final card. He's giving him one last chance to express even a little bit of doubt. But there is no doubt, not a shred, Bennewitz is 100% certain. And with those 4 words, he gives the Air Force the perfect opening they need to protect their secret. And there it is. That's the moment. The moment a U.S. government counterintelligence officer confirmed a UFO story to a private citizen, not because it was true, but to hide a truth that was even more sensitive. They literally fed his belief to protect their reality. This case just leaves us with this fascinating and, honestly, a pretty troubling question. In the high-stakes world of national security, where exactly are the lines drawn between protecting secrets and manipulating your own citizens? The Paul Bennewitz affair really shows just how blurry those lines can get.